This is a homage beat.
X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, I mean, I like that quote. I think that there's sometimes I look at it as sometimes we look down on that women deciding to do that.
Yeah.
But like our culture doesn't really look down on when men decide to do it or even use their bodies as a means to make money or earn income. So there's like a double standard that like people would look down on like women and put them in a corner. But then there are men that choose to do that. I mean, there are male prostitutes, there are male strippers, but then it would just even make the point that like it's almost hypocritical that you wouldn't even look at athletes in the same way. They use their bodies to earn income, and then sometimes when their bodies are used up, people throw them away. Like, and they don't even want to like take part of them. They act like they're not worth anything anymore. They're not valuable, even though they put their body through a lot of stress and turmoil just to get to the point where they're able to use it to earn themselves income. But I really like where you were talking about when you put, but in revealing their physical beauty for money assesses value to that which is invaluable. And then you said one assesses value to shoes, furniture, and jewelry. And it's just when you use that, because those things, like, they're here, but then they can be messed up, they can be thrown away. I just like how you put that, you express that people are valuable, but these things that are inanimate objects, like, you can choose, like, once you buy it, the price goes down. You buy a car, as soon as you drive off the lot, it starts going down. So it's that, I just really like that, man. I just want you to keep, like, that was your quote?
Yeah,
that was good. It was a little bit like now, like no, that was fire, man. Like,
because like I said, just a lot of themes run parallel to the book because we start talking about desires in the first concept that we did when we started. We was talking about your heartbeat and talking about desire. So we see a lot of overlapping concepts, but there is a thread that is weaved throughout a lot of the chapters. Is that humans are valuable, immensely valuable, and prostitution it devalues a human. But again, if you do not come from the concept that a person is made in the image of God, that I can use and exploit a human being as I want, therefore there's nothing wrong with prostitution. If you don't come from a biblical worldview, you cannot argue against prostitution, because someone has these features and they're using them to benefit from. How can you say that's wrong? From a biblical worldview, I can say that's wrong. But if you do not come from a biblical worldview, how?
I mean, I like that point. I mean, you making that point, man. Like, if you don't come from a biblical worldview, and you just come from the worldview of like, you're just trying to earn income or not, you cannot really say that. Like, you cannot sit and be like, well, prostitution is wrong. Because it's hypocritical. Just like in all these points that we've made, like, it's just. Because those forms, like going back to other forms of sexual gratification, I mean, that's prostitution in itself. So, I mean, you hitting that point, man.
Yeah.
You hitting that point.
And so, again, just making that transition to talking about prostitution from an objective standard, and then just trying to say, hey, look at this from a biblical framework. And again, we were talking about it earlier, like so many people have this view of scripture and they like read it with like kid glasses on. But if you were just to do like a search, because a lot of the versions, they may not have the word prostitution, but they have harlotry or they have whoredom, and you see that just littered throughout scripture. The first time that I can remember about the Bible talking about like prostitution is with I had his name on the tip of my tongue, the guy who was with his Judah. There we go. Judah and Tamar. I was like, I can't even think of it. Judah and Tamar, where and it's a long story, so I just keep it short. Essentially, he went to the temple, and at the temple they had temple prostitutes, and so he had sex with a temple prostitute, and it turned out to be his daughter-in-law. And so he didn't know. So we see prostitution littered throughout scripture, where we see the flaws of men, where it's just run rampant. And prostitution is literally called the oldest profession because it goes back to the dawn of man, where women would use, and majority women, but I would say men as well, would use their bodies to profit off of. And again, if you're not coming from a biblical worldview, you can't necessarily say that's wrong. They're using what they had to provide for themselves.
Yeah.
And the thing that I found very interesting was like when you read scripture, prostitution is closely linked with idolatry. And we were talking about it a little bit earlier, and I was asking, why do you think prostitution is linked with idolatry?
Why do I?
Or why do you think scripture links the two?
Because just in itself, sex can be an idol for some people. It's just anything that you do or you give of yourself of. And it goes before your creator. And you put it in there because when you engage in something, and it does have to do with sex. You become emotionally invested in it, and you become emotionally invested. And you tie yourself to it. And anything you tie yourself to, that comes in front of your relationship with God. I know that we consider that to be an idol.
Absolutely, absolutely. What I had in mind was, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the story of Hosea. It's literally a whole book of the Bible in the Old Testament where there's this prophet Hosea, and God says to him, and I'll just read it. Hosea, I'll just start in verse 2. When the Lord first spoke through Hosea, the Lord said to Hosea, go take for yourself a wife of whoredom and have children of whoredom, for the land commits great whoredom by forsaking the Lord. And essentially he was paralleling, because he ends up marrying a prostitute named Gomer, and Gomer is supposed to represent Israel. And so it's this idea that God has done everything for Israel. God is the God, what he says it numerous times, that I brought you out of the land of Egypt, that I've done these marvelous things for you. Not only have I brought you out of the land of Egypt, that I've taken you to Israel, where it was bountiful, where it's plentiful, where I have done nothing but bless you. What your response should be what? To honor, praise, and glorify me. But yet, what do? You turn to these idols who do absolutely nothing for you. And like you said something that was real key. You give yourself over. Like a prostitute gives herself over to these other things. And it's like, as a married man, just thinking about that concept that you provide, you love your wife, and then she would go and give herself over to other men. And it's like, yo, what kind of craziness is this? These other people don't do anything for you, but yet you prostitute yourself out for that. And so the metaphor is, man, we prostitute ourselves over to money, to fame, to anything other than God. And it's like, those things don't do anything for you, but yet you dedicate your life to these other things. You dedicate your life to what? Creation instead of what? The creator. And it's like, a lot of the concepts, what I do, I always go back to Genesis. I say, we see it right there. I say, it's in Genesis 3:6. It says, when the woman saw the tree was good for food, and that it was what? A delight to the eye, that it looked beautiful to her. And that the tree was to desire to make one wise. She took of its fruit and ate, and she gave one to her husband who ate of it. It's essentially what? I desired what that creation. It's like, yes, creation is beautiful, but what? How much more beautiful is the one who created it? And it's like, I desire creation more than I desire my creator. I say, and desiring creation is such an offense to the creator, because it says creation is more desirable than the one who created it. Like an artist who creates art, the artwork is to point back to the one who created it. It's an offense only to acknowledge the artwork and not the artist who created it. And I say, this is how we view beauty. It's like we see the outward beauty of a person, but no, that outward beauty is to point back to the creator, that what? He is exceedingly more beautiful because he's the one who created not just a person, but just creation. When you can just look at creation and just say, man, this is beautiful. Bro, God created it. So that's a reflection of God's character, that he is beautiful. So don't just desire the creation, you desire him.
And just to clarify, bro, like when you say, just so we're on the readers that getting this, when you say creation, you referring to like people, or you just referring in general? Like,
anything. Creation can include people, the land, anything that we can see that wasn't created by man. Creation, the universe. We can just look and just gaze upon it. It's just marvelous. It's beautiful.
Definitely.
But it's like, that points back to the creator's beauty. But we just see the beauty of creation and neglect the creator. Because like I said, it's a foreign concept to think of God as beautiful. Like we don't think of, like, if we name the attributes of God, the last thing on our list is beautiful. Like, especially as a man, I'm not thinking God is beautiful.
Because you always consider him to be a male.
Exactly. But it's like God beauty is not just what a person looks like, it's who they are. And I say this incorrect view of beauty has consequences, one of which is the issue of prostitution. Prostitution capitalizes off the beauty of sex. And I say this, and I just wanted to know your opinion. I say sex is designed to demonstrate something about God. Because again, we just talk about sex and we don't really have actual conversations about it. Number one, because it's so taboo. But we need to rethink that, because if I'm arguing that sex is a gift, this is a beautiful thing, and that we should celebrate it. And I think it's designed to demonstrate something about God. Do you think like sex, or if it is designed to demonstrate something about God, what do you believe sex does reveal about God?
I just believe it exposes some of his character, like that he created something that, like, I like how you went back and when you first called it, that it was given as a gift, and how we can take the gift and not using it as proper way, and then it loses its power, and the things that it does, and how it transitions into broken homes, broken families, and all these different things. God created sex to be something between the man and the wife. He created it just from learning and reading, and he created it between the man and the wife so he can continue to create more images of him. Like when they have children and all these different things, and when it's not used in that way that he created it, it's a problem.
Absolutely.
Not just for us, but for generations to come, going all the way back to Genesis, and now generations are dealing with it. Because like the point you made earlier, that I don't know if you said it in the pod, but like you were talking about how they were doing prostitution in Genesis. So God had to wipe it out, and then came back, and we still dealing with it. So it's definitely something. I
say sex is a way to be uncovered, and like I said, just looking at it just objectively, sex is a way to be uncovered, vulnerable, and exposed. Sex allows one to know another in a way that others don't. The relationship you have with your wife, no one else has that. The relationship I have with my wife, no one else has that. I know my wife in a way that no one else knows her. I say, therefore, sex is a reminder that before our Creator, we stand uncovered, vulnerable, and exposed. And having this intimate knowledge of us, God does not seek to shame, criticize, or abuse us. Rather, he invites us to know him. And it's like when you see all throughout Scripture where it's like, this person knew them, and it's talking about just sexual intimacy, knowledge, how they knew them. And it's like when you're involved with someone that level of intimacy, they know things about you that you would never want anyone else to know about. You know, I was thinking of like, and this, I don't know why this is the first thing that came to my mind, because it's just littered throughout. Like, I don't know if you heard about Kevin Hart, and he got caught up in a hotel. It's like, he got exposed for being an adulterer, and as a result of getting exposed, this individual wants to share it with the whole world, so we can criticize and shame him. It's like she knew something intimate about him, that he was an adulterer, and what she sought to give it out to the world. When that relationship that he should have just been having with his wife should have just been between him and his wife. And it's like, once you get to know people, and it's like, again, because I was saying sex is not purely, physical, it's emotional and spiritual as well. It's like you just getting to know someone, and even like I said, just taking it out of sex, where it's like when you become friends with people, you get to know them better. You know their failures, you know their flaws, and even just like I said, just even with us, when you can be with your friends, you see certain things about them, like even with us, just as men, and I don't know if I should do this, but I won't do it. I was gonna say when you get to know your friends, you know they're not as good at sports games.